All right, BC Hydro moving ahead with that near $1 billion plan to install smart electricity meters in 2 million homes in British Columbia's and businesses starting this summer. They've already signed one of the contracts for the providers of the electric meters, and then these things are going to start rolling out. I thought for a minute there, just for a second, that Premier Christy Clark was going to come in and put the brakes on this thing because it's so expensive. And if you're going to have hydro rate increases down the road, people blame these smart meters. I thought she was going to do the politically expedient thing, come in and say, pull the choke chain and say, no, forget these smart meters. But no, they're going ahead with it. Now, the government says the reason they're going to do it is they're going to save money down the road. So, yeah, it's going to cost $1 billion, but they're going to save so much money with these smart meters that your hydro bill will actually go down. You're going to save money. You're going to pay less for your hydro. Are you buying that? Really? I mean, are you buying that these smart meters are going to cost you less down the road? You know what I think these things are? I think these smart meters are just basically little miniature tax machines that they're going to install in every house. Because you know what's coming. You know what's coming. Once everyone's got these smart meters in, then they go to the time of use electricity rates. So if you're using electricity at peak hours, that's when they'll jack up your hydro bill. It's right there on the BC Hydro website. This is right now. The smart metering program includes only voluntary time of use rates to estimate the program's benefits. Then later on, they will consider rate structures that will offer incentives for customers to use less electricity. So if you're willing to do your laundry at 2 a.m., yeah, then maybe you'll save some money. That's what I think's going on. Let's talk to a couple of guests about it. Joshua Hart is from the website StopSmartMeters.com. Joshua.
Hi, Mike. It's StopSmartMeters.org, actually, but thank you for having me on today.
StopSmartMeters.org. Jim Quail, BC Public Interest Advocacy Center. Jim.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Thanks for coming on. Josh, let me go to you first. Why do you want to stop smart meters?
Well, look, we're facing a full-scale debacle here in California, and along with it, a full-scale public revolt against these things. Pacific Gas and Electric is our utility for most of the north part of California, and we feel like a bit like a kid in a candy store. There are so many problems with these smart meters. It's like, where do you start? The real central issue that has been driving resistance from local governments. We have 36 local governments in California who handed a halt to the program. It's been the resistance of those local governments have been based on the concern about health, and really the issue is, as we're learning more about the fact that cell phones can cause brain tumors, why are we putting that same technology on everyone's home? And in fact, these smart meters are putting out wireless microwave radiation pulses that there's evidence that they actually exceed the Federal Communications Commission safety limits for exposure. So
don't we got microwaves all around us?
They're
everywhere.
We do. We have a growing level of electrosmog around us from cell phone towers and cell phones and Wi-Fi. But these smart meters represent a huge increase, a significant increase in what we're being exposed to. And this comes as evidence is coming in that these really are not doing good things for health. And we've just been inundated, along with the Utilities Commission, with thousands of complaints from people, regular, everyday people, who the smart meter goes in. All of a sudden, they're getting headaches. They can't sleep at night. They're getting ringing in the ears, a variety of health complaints, heart arrhythmias. And this is not a surprise. I mean, our bodies are electromagnetic. Our cells use.
I'm not sure. I think most people will get a headache if their electricity bill starts to go up. Don't you think these things are just basically a tax grab?
Well, that's another issue. People will be getting bills that are hundreds of dollars higher than they're used to paying.
Really? Now, why is that? Is that because of the time of use rates?
Well, the time of use rate hasn't been implemented in California yet. That's something they're planning to do in the future, and there's a lot of concern from consumer groups that will predominantly affect people who are unable to pay, like elderly and people who work from home and people who are ill. We have been hearing complaints that people's bills have been going up. Sometimes it's just $50, $100, but in some cases it's like $500 or $600.
Why?
On a regular $300 to $400 bill. Well, we don't know, but the inaccuracies have been only going in one direction, and that is up.
Oh, inaccuracy. Wait, the meters are inaccurate?
Well,
can't be that dumb.
there was a study done, commissioned by PG&E, done by one of their biggest clients, the Structure Group, a few months ago, and they took these meters and they tested them, and they said, oh, they're perfectly accurate. You can stop all the fuss now. But what they did is they looked at these meters in an isolated way, and we suspect that the inaccuracies that people are reporting on their bills are a result of this wireless technology. There was a case in near Stanford University of a group of students who received a bill for their neighbor's electricity usage. So, the wireless signals are getting crossed here, and it's in this mesh network where these wireless signals are going everywhere that you may not be getting the bill that you've signed up for. But I think,
you're going to get your neighbor's bill.
You may get in your neighbor's bill.
Well, let's go to Jim Quail. Jim, what do you think about these things?
Well, our shtick is we're concerned about the financial health of customers more than their physical health, and that's a serious problem, even if you're billed correctly. The notion that this is going to save people money is nonsense. The cost is very real, and it's enormous. $1 billion, and that's just the beginning of it. That isn't the end of the cost of this program. And this is going to go on for the indefinite future. The savings are all theoretical, and they're mainly based on totally bogus estimates of the amount of electricity that's stolen by grow-ops and a whole lot of assumptions around that. Hydro is no longer trying to pretend that this will actually result in saving electricity. The whole point of them is time of use rates.
Oh, yeah.
And you're bang on there. And what that means is if they work perfectly, you'll literally get up at 2 in the morning and run your clothes dryer. You're still using the same amount of electricity, just you're using it at a different time of day.
So it would be cheaper. The rate would be cheaper.
It would be a little cheaper, so you might save a few cents by setting the alarm, to get up in the middle of the night.
Get up at 2 a.m. and do your laundry, or get your kids up at 4 a.m. and give them a bath,
Yeah, there's a reason
at
why.
5 a.m. or something. And then, then I'll save my, come on now.
There's a good reason why our electricity usage goes up and down through the day, because dinner time, the whole family converges at home, dinner's cooking, kids are doing homework, all these things are happening, laundry's happening and so on, and then everybody goes to bed and then they go away in the morning. There's a reason for this.
So when they're out there, when Hydro's out there, and you're right about the theft, right? People are saying, wait a minute, how are you going to save all this money? And they're saying, hey, we're going to go after the bad guys, right? We're going to stop all these nasty grow-ops, all these guys who are stealing power to grow pot. We're going to stamp that out with these smart meters.
Yeah, and their numbers,
right?
Their numbers are bogus, and they jump around depending on what the purpose is. They were saying a year ago that there was somewhere between $20 and $30 million a year of electricity being stolen. They just pulled that number out of the air. They don't know. When they filed their so-called business case to show that these things actually would save money, suddenly the number is $100 million a year. They didn't file any explanation or any justification. And, of course, the government has said they don't have to go and justify it publicly at the Utilities Commission. But now when they've applied to raise our rates by 10% this year, I took a close look through their numbers, and all that they are looking at crediting back to customers once the smart meters come in, which would be 3 years from now, they'd all be operating, is just a little hair over $20 million. So when they want to take it from us, the number's $100 million a year. When they're giving back, they find $20 million. The whole thing is phony. And
okay. All right.
Phony, the question is, why would the government have shielded it from public review?
All right. Tell you what, guys, let's take a break. We'll come back and talk more about this. You know what? These things are just little tax machines. They're going to mount it on your wall. It's going to suck money out of your wallet. That's what it's going to be, like a little miniature vacuum cleaner that's just going to suck money out of your bank account, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to bring in these time-of-use rates. That's what it's all about. Don't fall for this smoke screen about the grow-ops. Yeah, come on. This is about the time-of-use rates. They'll bring that in later. Get the smart meters in your house now. Tell you it's about cracking down on bad guys growing dope. And then they'll crank up your rate later. That's what it's all about. Joshua Hart, now he's with a group that says these things are bad for your health, too. Jim Quail is my other guest. Phone me up. What do you think about this? $1 billion for smart meters. Is that smart in your book, or is it dumb?
News, weather, traffic, sports, and everything else. If it happens in Vancouver, you'll hear it on CKNW, BC's news leader.
All right, welcome back to the show as we continue our discussion about smart meters. My guests, got Jim Quail, BC Public Interest Advocacy Center, Josh Hart, StopSmartMeters.org. We'll take your calls. Terry.
Michael, good afternoon.
Hi.
Michael, I have to tell you, I'm worried for my mother. She lives in Northern Ontario, and I talked to her about this. They have smart meters, and she tells me that she lives alone, virtually by light bulb. Her heat is propane, and her monthly hydro bill has gone way up. She says it's $200 a month, and her home is over-insulated. It's a very well-built structure. I just don't understand. I worry for her because she's 75, and she has a little ability to grow her income to keep up with all these costs. She's victimized by this, and clear evidence is McGuinty's the province's change. They dropped back the hour from 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening for the peak power usage. Yeah. She was getting tired of having to do laundry after 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, this is a huge issue. This is a very hot political issue in Ontario. Jim, have you taken a look at their experience at all?
Yes, it's been a nightmare, and it makes you wonder why the BC government's going this way. It's been a disaster for McGuinty. But look, they're claiming that this isn't about time of use rates. It's like saying we're going to.
Well, they're not really saying that, are they?
I mean, they're saying they're being cagey. I think you've called it right. It's like saying we're going to spend $1 billion on can openers, but we're not going to get any cans. I mean, that's what these things are for. They're for tracking what time, how much electricity you're consuming hour to hour. That's the whole point. But we're going to be paying right from the beginning because, first of all, there's the upfront cost of $1 billion. And then there is the fact that the government is going to take a profit on that investment. They take a dividend on all of the money that BC Hydro invests in capital programs like this. So they're going to be making a profit out of our $1 billion, and then they're going to bring in time of use rates that are going to absolutely skewer a whole lot of households out there that really can't do anything to dodge the bullet because it's just not realistic. So, this caller's mother is a perfect example of what we're going to be seeing a lot of.
They'll do it after the election, too.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll bring them in, say it's about the grow-ops, and then they'll jack it up later.
And let me tell you the cutest move in this. BC Hydro suggested that they wouldn't start collecting the cost of the system until after the 3-year cycle that they've applied for rate increases, which conveniently pushes it beyond the next election.
Oh, yeah.
The normal rule is customers have to start paying for things once they come into service. That would mean that the starting date for our rates going up to pay for these things would be April 1st, 2013. You know what's happening 6 weeks after that?
Yeah, that's the next scheduled election. Yeah, although I think we're going to get an election before that. Let's go to Michael. Let's go to Michael on the open line. Michael, hi.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on here.
Sure.
I get really upset about this issue because simply we, the people, own the actual property that the hydro dams are built on, firstly. Secondly, if you want to save money on your electricity, what do you have to do? You have to buy more efficient appliances on your credit card or whatever upfront cost in the hopes that in the future you'll get a return on your investment. So since the government takes our money from BC Hydro, throws it in the general pot, why can't they make that investment to stop these grow-ops? In 10 years, it would pay for itself, and they wouldn't have to even touch rates, which would put more money in our pocket, which would increase our economy.
The grow-ops thing's a total smokescreen. You telling me they got to spend $1 billion on these meters to stop grow-ops? Give me a break. Yeah, Joshua, let me ask you this. I mean, I think this is going to be a political issue that heats up in our province. It's already in other provinces in Canada. It's already a big issue, like in Ontario. In California, what's the deal there? I mean, are people blaming Arnold for this? I mean, he's not around anymore. But was this Schwarzenegger's idea?
Well, look, in California we have a Public Utilities Commission that is dominated by industry, and it wouldn't take a lot to guess that it's a similar situation in British Columbia. And the speakers who've been talking so far, they're absolutely right. This program is all about money. It's about making more profits for these utilities. And there's been a lot of talk, what with PG&E's other problems this year, the gas explosion in the Bay Area, of nationalizing that utility. And the question is, why should this 12% of guaranteed income that Pacific Gas and Electric earns from its ratepayers, in other words, us, be going to the shareholders rather than going back into the system to reduce rates for all of us? And that is something that the smart meter debacle is bringing up. But It's all about money. It's impacting the most vulnerable and the elderly people the most. And there's a growing revolt all throughout this country, but particularly in California and particularly in Maine.
Yeah, here it's coming straight from government. This is a brainchild of former Premier Campbell. And I was hoping that they would abandon it with a change at the top, but
I thought they might, but
it
no.
seemed like a sensible thing. Not only, I think in your opening comments, Mike, you said it would be expedient, which it would be. It would also be the sensible thing to do in terms of running the system properly. It is a stupid way to squander $1 billion of our money.
All right, we got a few minutes left on smart meters. Let's go right back to your phone calls. Klaus, thanks for waiting. Hi.
Well, I think that the smart meter is actually something that is absolutely inevitable. It's an automation of the grid system. The peak demand, the difference between the peak demand and the average demand or the minimum demand is huge. And if hydro could smooth out that those peak and valleys, that would actually delay a huge capital costs in building more dams to meet the peak power. So what they're going to do with this, of course, there's going to be a benefit of taking people that are growing pot and so on and so forth. But I think inevitably, you will see that maybe hydro could prolong huge capital costs by installing this and smoothing in demand.
Okay, Klaus, thank you for that call. Jim, there's the case for the smart meters.
Yeah, I don't want to get too technical. What we're talking about there is the capacity of the system, and our system has loads of capacity. The actual savings on delaying capacity investments like Site C Dam or something, if these things work perfectly, you might postpone having to build Site C by a few weeks. That's all we're talking about, because capacity investments are huge, lumpy investments, transmission lines, dams. You shave a little bit off the peak, you do almost nothing of any value. And again, we don't have any shortage when it comes to the sort of firepower of our system.
It's bottom line it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's about getting more money into government coffers, isn't it?
That is a huge part of it. And, I mean, I have a hard enough time trying to read my own mind, let alone reading somebody else's, but it's really a bit getting difficult to fathom what's going on in the politicians' minds, charging along this route where it's gone sour everywhere else, and it's clear that it doesn't pay for itself. It's clear that this is just a bad decision, but they seem to be unshakable. And what's driving this? It's very hard to say. Certainly more money for government, because the higher our bills go, paying for dams and meters and things, the bigger the dividend that goes to the government.
And they're already softening people up for it. I mean, for listeners on CKNW and others on the network may not have heard that commercial, but for NW listeners, you just heard that PowerSmart ad where they talk about, hey, don't waste electricity, and they play a tape of this woman who's running all kinds of appliances at the same time and turning on the TV for a cat and all this other ridiculous stuff saying, oh, don't waste power, don't waste power. This is like they're softening you up for this thing now.
And rates.
Right? This is like, oh, this is what this is about.
Rates
this is about stopping you from wasting power. It's about picking your pocket is what it is.
Yeah, our rates are going up so fast and so high that people are going to be almost starved into keeping their homes colder, into finding every way they can to try to reduce electricity consumption to the point where it's really questionable.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Jim Quail, BC Public Interest Advocacy Center, Joshua Hart, StopSmartMeters.org. We'll take